Hello, Jonathan Hetterly here, and today we're going to be exploring the psychological themes found in HBO's award-winning show, Barry. Psych Cinema is Shrink Tank's video series where I explore the psychology found in the films that I watch and love. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to start a new series known as... But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the notification bell. That way you won't miss any of our content that we drop that explores the intersection of psychology and pop culture. So today I'm going to do a little bit of a synopsis of HBO's award-winning show Barry, starring Bill Hader, and then I'm going to dive into some of the psychological themes found in the show. So in Barry, Bill Hader plays the title character, Barry Berkman, a hitman who on his latest target follows him to LA where he happens upon an acting class. Now Barry is mentally and emotionally stunted and probably muted, and so his emotions are awakened by seeing people performing and rehearsing and acting, and he gets the idea that he wants to leave his life as a hitman behind and pursue this new avenue of acting. And along the way, we see the challenge of Barry's past and the trauma associated with it, along with the challenge of whether or not he's any good at acting. The series itself is kind of a meta commentary on Bill Hader's time with Saturday Night Live. He's been very open about his own struggles with anxiety, and what he was really good at, which was improv and live comedy, gave him high levels of anxiety and stress, and he was really looking to turn towards direction and writing in film. But he had this fear and worry of, what if I'm not good at it? The show is remarkable. It's not as funny as some people may think, but it's humorous in a lot of dark ways, and it's very rich in its psychology. And special shout out to Henry Winkler, who just won an Emmy Award for his standout performance as the acting coach Gene, whereas Barry is very muted in his emotions and is not sure what he wants. Gene is the polar opposite, a man full of emotion, and somebody, as you see in the series, knows what he wants and is not afraid to go after it. But now let's shift to some of the psychology found in Barry, and this is a very rich show, because first and foremost it starts with Barry as a hitman who is a returning vet from Afghanistan, and in a lot of ways we suspect that he's struggling with PTSD. There's a lot early on that suggests he's emotionally muted or stunted. He kind of escapes by playing video games, and if you look at his apartment, his place, even the music or the posters kind of evoke the sense of somebody that's in their late teens, early 20s. And so there may be something about he's really has arrested development based upon his time going to war and coming back, not really able to pick up life at the age and stage that he's at. Now, he has a handler, Fuchs, played by Stephen Root, who gets him into being a professional assassin or a hitman. And one of the challenges that Barry has is that he can emotionally detach from his work. And he's very good at it, but there's something lingering that he recognizes by disassociating with that and emotionally detaching from that. He's really doing that with all of his emotions. And so he's really depressed and disconnected from life. There's not a lot that gives him a lot of joy. So the show really kind of explores an awakening. What happens when there's something that evokes a lot of emotion out of you, but it even may evoke a lot of fear and trepidation? Because it's really about stepping outside of your comfort zone, which we know in terms of anxiety and depression is really something that's really powerful in not allowing your emotions to dictate your decisions or your quality of life. Now, let's talk a little bit about anxiety, because when we talk about improv theater and performing, there's a lot of research and there's a lot of people that have advocated for the performing arts, live performance, improv theater. One of the principles of improv is that you say yes to everything, which we know is counter to what anxiety tends to do with people. Anxiety tells us to say no, that things that we can't know, that we can't control, that we can't predict, oftentimes are so scary and overwhelming that we refuse to step out of our comfort zone and step into an unknown element. Well, theater, live performing, or improv really challenges that. It really helps a person get comfortable, even with other people watching them, to say yes to everything, to not know where everything is going, especially in improv theater, but they also get the experience of rolling with it, and how that even if they don't know what to do, the whole point is to keep things going in improv rather than worry about, am I going to look stupid? Am I going to say the wrong thing? And that can be a very disarming and refreshing experience for those that have high anxiety. Bill Hader himself has talked a lot about his anxiety, and unlike other celebrities, he eventually got to the point where the more successful he became at Saturday Night Live, the more his anxiety actually built up. It didn't go away. Whereas another actor, Emma Stone, has been very open about how improv actually helped her anxiety because it helped her stay in the moment. And that's another element of live performing, is the mindfulness aspect of staying in the moment, where a lot of times anxiety especially shoots us into all these thoughts about the future, things we don't know, things we can't predict, things we can't control. A lot of times folks that suffer from depression, they experience the exact opposite, is they're stuck in the past and they're focusing on things that they can't change, that have already happened, but they replay it in such a distressing manner that it amplifies their level of hopelessness, criticalness, and negativity.
Fiona! This is just so brutal.
Whereas improv, performing, or theater oftentimes requires you to stay in the moment. And that's one of the key traits of mindfulness, is to focus on the here and now, what's in front of you, and eventually what's just short-term ahead. Whereas depression, you get stuck in the past, anxiety, you get stuck in the future. Mindfulness is really about grounding yourself in the here and now. And theater, live theater, especially improv, requires that. The other thing that oftentimes performing helps people with anxiety is they oftentimes are overcome with fears and worries in real life about what am I going to say? How are people sort of reacting to me or judging me? And maybe not so much in improv, although there is a lot of rehearsing to it. Theater and live performance allows you to rehearse. It allows you to have a script. It allows you to be in control of, the more that I practice these lines and I practice the choreography and the production, I know what is expected of me. And that oftentimes can help people, especially with social anxiety, when they step into either a large room with people or even a small, more intimate, but they're so lost in their thoughts about, like, what are other people thinking of me? What should I say? When I say something, how did they take that? Live performance, you get a script and you rehearse, and then you can improve and you stay out of your head, because you're focused so much on deliver your lines, rehearse, progress makes perfection. And finally, performance can really help people that are very insecure or struggle with their own self-image, because it allows them to practice pretending to be somebody else. And that oftentimes can get them out of that self-destructive rut of just being very hypercritical and judgmental of themselves. And so if they're not sure who they are, there can be a lot of power from a narrative standpoint of stepping out of overly fixating on yourself and learning to play another person, and hopefully then that can circle back and they can internalize that confidence of figuring out who they are as they bounce it off playing somebody else. And so all of this conversation and talk about anxiety really does come from Bill Hader's own personal experiences. And so he actually in 2010 had a panic attack in a live taping while he was playing Julian Assange. And so he kind of recognized from his own anxiety that even though what he was doing that he loved and that he was good at it, it more and more became a burden and really amplified the distress of his anxiety. And he's talked about, though, how to manage anxiety, and it helped him turn to therapy, and he practices transcendental meditation twice a day. And so again, even as he's going to promote the show Barry, Bill Hader is kind of raising the profile and advocacy of people struggling with anxiety, even live performers or people that you might assume go up in front of a live audience, they must have very low anxiety. That's not the case with Bill Hader. And so hopefully even those people that watch Barry can get some insight into how to maybe manage their own anxiety and hopefully feel like they're not alone. Now, one last aspect of Barry that I want to talk about is the challenge that the character finds as he's awakening to all these emotions, and as pretending to be someone is actually helping him discover who he really is rather than the emotionally muted shell of a person that he is with the depression and maybe some trauma, is the challenge of vulnerability, and how through acting, through playing somebody else, Barry, and in a lot of ways a lot of young men, kind of discover their own emotional vocabulary and makeup, because we really are a society that undervalues emotional intelligence and helping men express their thoughts and feelings in a way that kind of expresses vulnerability. And for a lot of men, vulnerability equates weakness. And as Barry starts to open up and really show vulnerability and let people into his life, the show really creates this tension, because the more Barry opens himself up to other people because of his past life as a hitman, the more he puts the people that he loves in harm's way. And so that really is one of the central dilemmas of the show, is like, in order for Barry to develop as a human being, he puts other people at risk based upon the choices that he's made in his history. It really is a fascinating show, and there's a lot more that could be discussed about it, but I'd really be curious to hear your guys' take on Barry and the psychological themes of his character, or even acting and performing as a therapeutic tool, because at the end of the day, Barry really represents the message that can art heal us from our wounds and damage in life? Well, that's going to do it for my analysis of Barry. What did you think? Did you like the show? Are there any psychological aspects that I missed? Be sure to leave me a comment below, and also you can leave me a recommendation of a film or a television show that you would like for me to dissect here on Psych Cinema. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, and also check out shrinktank.com, where we post articles and videos and podcasts, and all other things where we explore the intersection of psychology and pop culture. Thanks for watching Psychology Yesterday. We'll see you next. It's not Psychology Yesterday. I need to really rehearse my lines. Thanks for watching Psych Central. Damn it! Thanks for watching Psych Cinema. We'll catch you next time. Nailed it.
Real quick, what does this mean for me and Barry?
We'll probably kill you, but I haven't checked with Goron yet.